This is a solemn and overwhelming day for me. I stand here on the floor of this great body as the first Armenian American woman to serve in the Michigan House of Representatives. I am humbled to have that honor, and it is a privilege to be joined today by so many leaders of Michigan's Armenian American community. Armenians around the world recognize April 24th, 1915, as the day that the Armenian Genocide began. The Ottoman Turkish government began their calculated campaign to exterminate the Armenians by removing the intellectuals, scholars, and leaders of this population from our community. Among these were leaders of our church, including Sokolmon Sokolmonyan, ordained as Gomidas. Gomidas was a priest.
Members, can I have your attention, please? The chair recognizes Representative Manoogian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gomidas was a priest who was the founder of the Armenian School of Musicology. He transcribed more than 3,000 ancient works of Armenian folk and religious music. Although Gomidas Vartabed survived the genocide, he, like many survivors of the genocide, endured trauma-related health struggles for the rest of their lives. From 1915 to 1923, over 1.5 million Greeks, Armenians, Assyrian Chaldeans, Syriacs, Aramaeans, Maronites, and many other Christians were subjected to torture, starvation, mass murder, and exile by the Ottoman Empire. This is a dark chapter of humanity's history, and it is vital that we remember it without revision or censorship. Like many Michiganders who are Armenian Americans, my ancestors were among those forced to flee in order to survive, leaving behind a homeland, language, culture, and community. My parents and grandparents often recall the stories of escape and survival that our family members told them. Children separated from parents, babies ripped from their mother's arms. 3 generations of my father's family lived in the home my grandparents owned in Allen Park. My grandparents, my father and his siblings, and my great-grandmother, a survivor of the Armenian Genocide. When he was little, my father and grandmother shared a bedroom, and to this day, my father can vividly recall his grandmother startling awake in the middle of the night, crying and reaching for heart medication she kept on a table near her bed after having a nightmare about the trauma she endured during the Armenian Genocide. Still, Armenian Americans in Michigan and indeed around the world persevered, became successful, productive members of our communities, and built a thriving diaspora in the land they now call home. Some of the most famous Armenian Americans were genocide survivors who settled in Detroit, including Alex Manoogian, nope, no relation to me, whose family gave back to both the Armenian American and Michigan communities through contributions in the arts, education, and culture. I can't even begin to imagine the fear, isolation, and uncertainty my family members and thousands of others felt during their treacherous journey to this country. But if they had known what their future held, I believe they would have been reassured that Michigan would welcome them with open arms and that they'd have the opportunity to rebuild and eventually thrive. While there were certainly challenges along the way, Armenian families like mine became invaluable to the fabric of Michigan. The communities they settled in my family's case, Detroit, Lathrop Village, and Downriver, had families of all ethnicities growing and working and playing alongside one another. These communities had great schools where their kids and grandkids would learn the skills they'd use to attend college and trade school and build careers they can be proud of so they too could one day raise families of their own. They and their fellow countrymen built businesses that thrive and churches where we worship during a traditional Armenian Orthodox Badarak service in the Armenian language and community centers where we sing and dance free from the fear of persecution. In this moment, I can only hope that Michigan will always be the place that it was for my ancestors and so many others, a shining beacon of hope and light in the darkest of times, accepting of those who need her most. Thank you to my Armenian friends and family who've come here today to mark this day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and fellow representatives for the opportunity to address this body. The Armenian American community and I are grateful for your support, and I hope to earn your co-sponsorship of this resolution via the electronic calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. The question for the House is adoption of House Resolution 76. All those in favor of the resolution will say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The resolution is adopted. For an introduction, the chair recognizes Representative Manoogian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today in the gallery, I have many special guests, including Reverend Dr. Vahan Tutikian, Reverend Hagop Harutyunyan, Professor Haig Oshagan, the Armenian National Committee of Michigan's Chair Lada Nersessian, as well as my parents, George and Sandy Manoogian.
Will the special guests of Representative Manoogian please rise and welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives.